Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Smarter Tomorrow podcast. Today's episode is super exciting. We are going to be discussing how we can empower ourselves as women to invest with confidence. We are talking about breaking barriers and becoming the best version of ourselves by making our money work for us. Today, I am joined by an amazing woman, Rina Hicks, who is a director at FIDA Investment Bank and also a certified coach. Rina, I'm very happy to have you here. So maybe we can start with a bit of getting to know you, your work, and what you do. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Susan. So my name is Rina Hicks, and I work at FIDA Investment Bank, as you have said. I run operations there. It's been 19 years since I began working there. And basically what we do is link investors to opportunities. I am also an author of a book called Money Wise, Create, Grow, and Preserve Wealth,
Wow.
and a certified coach. So I do have clients that I coach and groups that I coach as well. Yeah.
Right. It's amazing. I have definitely been a fan of your work for
you.
the longest time ever. And in light of our conversation today, in terms of empowering women to invest with confidence,
Yeah.
just earlier on, we were having a conversation around the psychology of money when it comes to women. And I was asking you whether, in your experience, one of the things that is very commonly said that we don't know whether it's true, is it a fact, is it just like we don't have our data right? But women are said to not invest as much as men. And I'm very curious to even hear from a professional like yourself whether that is an actual fact that we don't invest as much as men, and why you think that is even the case in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's true. It is true. I think women are very good money managers. Women are good savers. But when it comes to investing and taking risk, whether that's starting a business, whether that's investing in, opportunities that are beyond what they already know, such as putting money in a bank account or in a SACCO, they're very cautious. So it is true. And I think it just sort of bends towards the fact, the reality is, and I was trying to tell some people the other day, I have 3 kids. One of them is a boy, and the other 2 are girls. My son, I can be holding a gadget he has never seen before. He's 7, just to put it into context. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I get this thing to work? And my son is like, Mom, bring it here. Let me show you how.
I'll show you.
Yeah, let me show you.
Yeah.
And I find that men are generally that way. They know.
Yeah.
They just know.
Even when they don't?
Even when they know nothing. They are clueless, but they know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's an attitude, it's a posture that generally men have when it comes to life, when it comes to different things. How hard could it be?
Sure.
Is the attitude I find men generally have. And I'm sorry for those who feel annoyed when people put people in boxes.
Right.
But it is the truth.
But it is the truth.
Yeah. And then for women, we second guess ourselves. Even when it comes to looking for jobs and opportunities in companies that we work in, we look and see, what is the JD? What's the requirement? Do I meet like 98%
of the requirements?
Or even at least 80%, and then I take the leap. But for men, 40%, bring it on, I'll sign up for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's because of just the way that we're wired in that way. We're perfectionists. We are analytical. We want to get it right the first time. And so because of that, we're afraid to fail. Yeah.
And because, listen, I feel like you're preaching to the choir right now, because like as a young professional, the imposter syndrome generally in the professional workspace and even in finances is something I've dealt with. And I remember I used to hear, even like in my previous workplace, there was a guy who used to say, like, if I look at a job, a JD, and I've met at least 40% of the requirements, I'm applying. And I could not even get myself to do that because truly I'm looking at, I pretty much have everything here other than the master's degree that they're asking for. But I've literally checked all the boxes, but I will feel, because I don't have the master's degree, I'm not even going to attempt and apply. And then you hear that someone else applied who didn't even meet as many requirements as you did, plus the master's degree, and they actually got onboarded. So it's something that I've seen in the professional space. Now, in terms of like my journey of investing, I grew up poor. Yeah. So, and I love something that you've said, that women are good at money management, they're good at saving, but when it comes to investing, it's a completely different ballgame. So for me, the first thing that I had to discover was one, I'm trying to get out of poverty. So I had a lot of black tax coming into employment, right? I had a lot of like, I have to, the savior complex, like I have to save my family and I have to do this, that, and the other thing, right? And because of that, I became very good at money management because I learned to kind of like manage very little, to try and do as much as possible with very little. Because again, I was at entry level earning 40,000, right? So you're trying to do all that and still trying to get ahead. So I became very good at money management and very good at saving. However, investing was the funniest bit of it because I worked in an investment firm. So I was privy and I was aware that there are all these investment options. However, I just didn't think they applied for me. I would actually do it for my clients and, whatever it is that we do for work. But I didn't think that applied to me because I was like, I must get to a particular level of, let's say, cash flow or knowledge or just a particular age for me to kind of like now feel confident investing. So at the point I was losing my job, Rina, I had worked in an investment firm for 4 years and I was working in the department that actually handled private equity and portfolio management.
Okay.
And I had 0 investments, not even a money market fund.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what is it about the psychology of money when it comes to us women that you think is the barrier? Well, for me, I do know that money trauma, past money trauma, and the fear of losing money, because I have very little. I've just accessed money. So I'm feeling letting it go and now investing it is too big a risk. So I'd rather just have money in my bank account, in my M-Shwari where I can see them, even though I have the head knowledge that you can't save your way to wealth. You must invest. What is it about our psychology that creates that barrier?
Yeah. I think you've said it. One big one is fear. The fear of losing money.
Yeah.
You want to grow it, but you don't want to lose any of it. Now, failure is not necessarily a bad thing, but we don't take it really well. But I think one of the things we need to get over is that fear of what if I lost it? So I think what women need to do is think through, how can I start with little, that even if I lost, it's okay. So that when I put in that little, I will learn, and then I will be able to make better decisions later, or I will do well and be able to put more and grow.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't fear failure too much. I think the other thing is feeling that we don't know enough. And we want to be able to have that 98%, 80% knowledge of everything
before we make
a decision. We know what the risks are. We know how to mitigate them. We know what red flags to watch out for. Then we know, and if you wait until you can see the clouds are about to pour rain to plant,
you'll caught
never
in the
plant.
rain. Yeah.
You will never plant. It will start raining. You never planted. You were too late for that season.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is you can't wait until you have full knowledge. Of course, you have to do your due diligence. I'm not suggesting that you just jump in. But there's, you can, once you get to know who is behind this, what is the opportunity, how much is there likely return? What am I potentially likely to lose? Can I take that loss?
Yeah.
Then just make the plunge with what you can afford to lose as you take the time to learn.
True.
And then I think another thing that men have over us is mentors. They mentor each other a lot.
Yeah.
So there's always mentorship. Even in a workspace, you'll find that other men will kind of be like, let me take you out for breakfast, or let's go for drinks, let's do things. So they kind of tend to mentor one another. Even in the family environment, you'll find the father will mentor the son and tell him, let me show you how to change a tire. Let me show you how to do this. But daughters, it's like money matters are just, it's fine. She'll learn eventually and so on. And so we don't get mentored, whether that's through from our parents or from in a work environment as much as men do. And so because there's no one hand holding you and showing you don't have stories of people who've been there, done that, and succeeded that will give you the confidence, or even people who will show you, let me just show you how it's done. So that we're then left to our own devices and becomes a problem. I once met a 50-something-year-old woman, fantastic woman, has worked even overseas. And she said, Rina, I'm afraid because I'm about to retire. And do you know where my money is? In a current account. This is a true story.
What?
Yeah, in a current account. And through the years, and of course there was a trauma story there. So we've had to work together. She's now this was like 3-4 years ago. So she's not where she was before at all. But the point is, it didn't need to wait for her to be 50-something.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
It's harder when you wait in terms of even like, because you see, compounding is a beautiful thing when it comes to investing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, and I think literacy, financial literacy, has a big part to play as well in terms of whether you invest or not. Because the day I truly understood the power of compounding and that it can work for me or against me, I really had to open up my mind to the possibility of me investing, right? Just looking at it from the perspective of, I mean, when I started my investment journey, I was 26. So you're also looking
That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I was 26, and it really just took me running numbers in like, I mean, even if I just Googled a compound interest calculator, because I was reading, when I lost my job, I think for me, that's when the light bulb moment happened in terms of you could be exposed to pretty much every piece of information. But the problem is not, because we already live in an information age. I mean, today you enter Instagram, YouTube, you want to read a personal finance book, there's that, right? The problem is now translating that to your own individual journey or your own individual finances and seeing, okay, this is a good baby step for me to start, or this is my next best step to kind of like start with. So when I learned about compound interest and the power of compound interest, I understood that there was something I learned about the power of 5,000 shillings, right? And trying to see at the age of 26, if I invest for 20 years, just the consistent 5,000, of which that's pretty much impossible because as I grow in my work, in my career, I'll probably be able to invest more.
Right.
It was already such a meaningful amount of money that someone has even trouble comprehending how 5,000 could have compounded to that much, let's say like in 20 years, right? So I also feel like the financial literacy bit of it, and I'm very curious, of course, because as someone who works in an investment firm, what would you kind of like point us to or guide someone who's like, I call it investing for dummies, right? So let's just say I have a budget. I know where my money goes and the rest of it is in banks, maybe chamas, whatever. What's that gap between where I am? How can I kind of like bridge that gap between where I am and becoming an investor using financial literacy? What kind of information should I look for? What kind of things should I expose myself to that would kind of like open my mind up to? There's compound interest. There's investments you can do with as little as 10,000 shillings.
Yeah.
There's investments you can do with as little as 20,000, and investments you can do with as much as 100,000 if that's what you have to spare.
Yeah. So there's a program we have called Investable, and the program basically takes people through that whole process from the beginning.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we start by doing is helping people understand that we can't continue this thing of earning money and spending all of it and financing our lifestyle with what we earn. Because a day is coming when you won't have it. So sometimes people get comfortable with that monthly income that comes, especially those who are employed. And they're comfortable. Whether you earn 100,000 or 1 million or 2 million shillings, there's just that comfort that, money is coming in every end of the month. And that comfort is a dangerous thing.
It is.
But we need to live with the reality that this active income I have is such a gift, and I need to take advantage of this opportunity to then generate passive income streams. So we then talk about how can I get to the place where I'm not financing my day-to-day needs with my active income only. There's a time this is a journey I've been on. I mean, I've made massive mistakes myself when it comes to managing money. And in the journey that I've had, there's a way that I used to wonder, now how do I allocate? I've gotten some money. Do I put some in money market? Do I put in shares? Do I put all of it in land? Because everyone says, let's buy land.
Let's buy land. You cannot not have land in Nairobi. What do you mean? Retire wapi?
But then as I did my research, I began to understand that you can't just decide I'm investing in X because everyone is doing this, or it's because it's a good idea. I have to invest based on what are my goals, what is it that I really want to do, but also what are my needs. So one of the things that we did is help people look at, okay, what are the needs? And we use Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we say, basic needs. What are your basic needs? Your need for Kenya Power to be paid, water, school fees, Wi-Fi these days is a basic need. Those things. What are the things I need? And how can I make sure that those things are taken care of, whether I have a job
or not?
So those are some of the things you first have to take care of. You can't put all your savings in land, for example, because you need cash flow at some point to do something. If an emergency happens, then what? So you look at what are some of those things. Things like a pension. Things like having an emergency fund that you put in a money market fund.
Those are your basics. Yeah. First layer of protection.
Yes, a layer of protection that helps you, at least if in a month's time things don't go as I expect, then, I have medical cover to pay for then I have emergency savings to pay for my tire that has, I don't know, the wheel something has happened to it. Then the next level is thinking through, how can I make sure that my money continues to grow alongside me? Like I said, we'll stop working one day.
Yeah.
So what are those options? And there's several options and we can help you think through those things. But the point that you're asking is, where can people get this information from? I think the information is so available. I tell people, imagine it's okay to just sit with someone who's an expert.
Right.
Because they will cut short that learning curve by so much.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is so amazing about women is our ability to collaborate and to have relationships with one another.
Yeah.
Like there's no issue with me calling you and saying, by the way, Shiko, Susan, I've called you Shiko. I don't even know whether that's the name that you use. Susan, I need an accountability partner.
Exactly.
So I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
But it's just not happening. Can we just meet once a month?
And
so that you
have
keep
this,
me accountable.
exactly.
I'll buy you coffee.
Yeah.
As women, we can do that with one another. I know what I need to do. So can you just hold me accountable so that I'm actually saving?
I love that.
And investing. So work with people. I have 5 friends who I call my destiny helpers. I'll tell them, by the way, this is what I'm working on. Hold me accountable. As women, let's take advantage of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And as if we do that, let's also understand from one another, what are you doing? What are you saving in? What are you investing in? And learn from each other.
Yeah.
Pick up books that we've written. You have a course, Legacy Hub, that people can sign up for. They can sign up for Investable. There's so many resources these days. I think the problem is not the knowledge. In fact, Dave Ramsey, as you know, says it's 20% knowledge and 80%
is
behavior.
mindset and behavior.
Yeah, because if we all know you need to spend less than you earn. We all know that.
But how many of us actually do that? Yeah.
So how can you systemize your life so that then you're actually able to execute on some of the things that you need to get done?
Yeah.
So I think the problem is not even so much the knowledge. Okay, knowledge is there, but then you need that push to make sure that things actually happen.
Right. And accountability is so important. You've actually preempted the next thing that I thought is very important for us to highlight, because as women, we connect emotionally. We are nurturers and we find ourselves in groups, whether this is a mommy's group or whether it is a church group or whether it is a chama for visiting our parents. We are in social groups. And one of the things, the other day on my YouTube channel, I was talking about merry-go-round chama and my absolute problem with merry-go-round chamas in the day and age of inflation, right? Because when you actually think about how a merry-go-round chama works and you kind of like imagine that this is money, so we are 3 of us, so we are 4 of us, and you're contributing 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. So is it 4 months? Every 4 months you get, 40,000, 20,000. I get 20,000. I get 20,000. I get 20,000, and the process just continues. But merry-go-round chamas will pretty much ignore the fact that, and that's one. And another thing that I learned that was amazing after compound interest is that if I'm not investing because I'm afraid of losing money, I need to be aware that I'm already losing money by not investing.
That's true.
Because of inflation and what it does to the purchasing power of my money.
And there's another risk.
Oh,
your merry-go-round member might not pay you their portion of the money.
They may not be diligent,
So,
right? So like there are
it's a huge
so
risk.
many moving parts that could be simplified, right? So and one of the things I keep telling people is that I feel like leveraging on some of these groups and relationships that we have as women is something that we should learn and be taught, because there's a group I met the other day that were in a chama of 10 women. I was wowed, Rina, by what these women have been able to do since uni. So it was a group that was formed, they're slightly older than me. So it's a group that was formed after after university, and they just started contributing money. Now, these women have a flat in Kitengela that is hostels, and each of these ladies collects houses in their own section. So it's like a 5-story building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a 5-story building, and then so 5 collects rent from this side and 5 collect rent from the other side from a chama. So while me and my friends are buying pots and sufurias with our merry-go-round chama, there are people who've come together, taken advantage of economies of scale. Because you see, if you tell me to raise 1 million by myself, I might feel like it's a challenge. But if we are 5 of us and we're trying to raise the 1 million, say for investment purposes, now it's been broken down to 200,000 each. So I was amazed at what they've been able to do in terms of like they're now each getting rental income from that property, and very soon they could move to a second one, right? So you see, they've used that collaboration or that relationship they have with each other to create an income stream for every every member.
That's
in
fantastic.
that, you know.
Yeah.
So and I'm very curious, which other ways do you think we can leverage on the fact that we are just social. We find ourselves in groups, whether that's in church or out of church. How can we better leverage on the fact that we're already relating and talking about our men, our babies, our homes, our mothers-in-law, everything, but money, you know, like it's we talk about everything. Why do you think that happens? Why is it so taboo for us to say, be in a group and be like, yo, I'm broke, or I'm struggling here, or even you being able to say, yo, babes, I there's this new investment. You guys need to listen in. Why don't we talk about money as much?
So I wonder whether that's a woman thing or a Kenyan thing. I don't know.
It's like top FBI secrets when it comes to money.
Yes, and I don't know what that's about. But I agree with you 100% in the sense that you know, even as we talk about our families, our children, our husbands, our parents, and all the different challenges that we're facing, money is one of those things that we need to add to that conversation because we can really, really spur one another on. You know, speaking of the chama, I think that's something that already is happening. Women are meeting one another, they're contributing to each other's merry-go-rounds to buy the Tupperware parties and all those different things.
Tupperware is a big deal now. Are you already in on the bandwagon?
I am not. I love the Tupperware, but I'm not. I struggle with multi-level marketing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the point is that if women are already meeting to give one another money, if they just decided, look, it's a waste of time for us to put money to do what we already can on our own, and create a rule around that socialization and say, we'll come together to do what we couldn't do on our own.
True.
So what is that?
That
we couldn't do on our own. But also, although chamas can also be very tricky because you need to have alignment in terms of purpose, alignment in terms of vision, and where you want to go. I think for women, generally, is also to network not just with women, but with other men. And the men who are already investing, already doing amazing things. I mean, I can't even stop talking about how many men have helped me in my investment journey.
Amazing.
And I can't actually tell you one woman who did. It's the truth. I'm just being honest. When it comes to just ideas, whether it is, you know, there's this firm that is doing XYZ, you should consider investing in it. Our private equity firm is considering ABCD, you should, you know. And even the people that I went to talk to were all men, and they jumped in and they're like, let's do this thing. You know, so I guess what I'm saying is that if you can't have that conversation with your girlfriends, Don't feel limited that, oh my gosh, I can't. I think we can't be everything to one another.
That's true.
It's how can you put yourself in spaces that you will learn, grow, and be challenged.
Yeah.
Whether it's, let's try this thing, you'll make money by doing this. There's ideas on investing. Most traders are men anyway. And when you talk to them, you hear what's happening in the economy, you hear what's going on, other than just babies and the kitchen and husbands, you'll be able to hear more.
Diversify your circles of influence.
Diversify your circles of influence, I think is what I'm saying. And then when you learn, take it to your girlfriend so that then you're not the only one who's growing.
True.
Let them know, by the way, this is what I heard. This is what I am trying out to do. Do you guys want to join me? If they don't, it's fine. You just carry on.
Yeah.
But don't feel stuck because this is my circle of friends. They're not interested. And so what do I do? Find a man or a woman who's where you want to be and learn from them. Get mentored by them, even if they don't know they're mentoring you. Just keep asking them questions. Take them out for lunch, for coffees, so that you learn more. I think one thing I also must say, especially for women who are either, sort of looking to get married, are already married. Or living with their parents, there's this thing that we kind of defer to the men in our lives.
True.
My husband's got everything. A lot of women, particularly those who stay home, tend to be, and there's nothing wrong with staying home. I just think that even if you're staying home, you need to know what's happening.
What is happening?
Yeah. How are bills paid? How much was Kenya Power? What are the expenses we have every month?
Be involved.
Be involved.
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure as women that we're adding value to the men in our lives. Whether that man is your father, your husband, your brother, whoever is in your life that you're doing life with, because that's when your value is seen, when you add value.
I love that.
You can't be always, he's going to take care of everything.
Sitting
I'm here
back.
to be taken care of. No, you're there to add value.
Sure.
So how can you invest in your own knowledge? Even have an understanding of what's happening around you, what's happening in the economy, what is the government doing, and just generally get an interest on some of the things that are happening. A lot of women don't even know what inflation rate is. They don't know what is this fear people have of defaulting. Defaulting is what? What is that? You know what I mean? Let's be engaged to understand what's happening around us because it will affect your business.
True.
It will affect your home. It will affect the bills that you're paying, the amount you're paying for your school fees for your children. It affects us. And so because of that, then we need to kind of be engaged with what's going on and not just sort of live in this cloud or bubble that everything is okay because my hubby earns, I don't know how many figures salary and I'm fine.
And I've seen that a lot. I mean, this is interesting because on Saturday, I had a very interesting conversation on my Instagram stories and I was asking, there's one friend I had a conversation with and he was telling me if women had a choice, truly had a choice, most of them would not choose to work. They would just want to stay home and, be in their feminine era.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And raise their children and just let the men do the, bringing in income, etc.
Okay.
I didn't agree with that. So I just put it up on my stories and it just took a life of its own because I asked the women who follow me or my platform, is this true? If given a chance, let's assume, you probably even get an allowance that takes care of whatever you need, but let the man handle income, investing, planning for the family, trusts, everything. And the discussion was very, very interesting because, again, in my own bubble, I did not believe that in this day and age, because we can be, you're not a monopoly of information. So I realized that there's a lot I don't know about how we think and how we process money. And it went on and on, through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, about and people were saying there was literally, I would probably put it at a 40% of women who are I would just stay at home and take care of the babies and not deal with this. Okay. I don't want to deal with corporate. I do not want to deal with investing. Investing is too hard. I don't want. So I kept kind of asking them back. So well and good. The money's there. Our husbands, our fathers, or whoever the male figure in your life is there. But there are unfortunate situations sometimes that these people even die. Let's not even talk about they leave you, but life happens sometimes. And your husband used to take care of everything, finances, etc. but then he's no longer there. So you have no idea where his money was or portfolio. You didn't do the running, and then now you have 3 kids. And you have to figure out finances from scratch because all along for years you were not involved, right? So where do women strike the balance? Because there's also a conversation that came up around what we call, I think, unpaid labor that women will do at home, right? Which is, let's say, like they're like, oh, I still bring in income. I think my husband also brings in income, but I have extra chores like being, let's say, the default parent of very young kids. You're doing the cleaning, organizing, etc. Because those were some of the things that were coming up, right? So as a woman, how, even in your own life, how have you balanced? Because there's all this, there's motherhood, there's you're a wife, you probably have other interests outside of work, and then there's work, and then there's your own financial freedom and financial journey. So how, because I feel like it's all these things around us as women. So what we do, we place them all on a pyramid and we decide, this is at the bottom of the pyramid. I'll figure it out later. My baby needs me now. There are 3 months. I can't focus on anything else. Or I have 2 toddlers or whatever. So you see, by the time you're getting to, okay, let me think about my money now. And, where's my retirement, etc. I feel like it's all these things that happen around us because we can't talk about a woman and take her out of her where she usually is, like homekeeping, whatever. Let's just assume this is a woman with a husband, kids, a home to run, a career she may or may not love, even a job she may or may not enjoy. Then you bring in the whole aspect of now her thinking about her wellness, and it's just at the bottom of the pyramid. Like it's just, I'm tired. Can my husband just,
for you.
can my husband handle this? Or can
No,
so
I understand.
how,
I understand. And I'm there. That's me. I am married. I have 3 kids. Those 3 kids you're talking about, the reason I'm laughing is because I identify.
Yeah.
I think we try to do everything all at once. And you can't have everything all at the same time.
Yeah.
Life is about seasons. Life is about seasons.
Yeah.
In a season, I had a baby, I had to stay home for 5 months. And that's what I did.
And that's what you did.
And I allowed myself to be in that space where I have a brain that is not functioning very well at optimum and just be in that space.
Yeah.
Okay, but even as you're in that season, it's also to allow yourself to just be. But that's a very short time within the context of life. Okay, so it's about accepting what season am I in. But even as I'm in this season, how can I continue to plan? And then you're not doing this on your own. Yeah, I think we try and do it on our own to the extent possible. You have a partner right there. Okay, so who's your husband? To what extent can you work together to build towards something for both of you to the extent possible? So one of the things I always tell people, please, before you get married, could you kindly take time to choose your marriage partner? Because this is a single most, what's the word I can use? It is a very significant decision.
It's a big deal. Bigger than we think.
Deal.
Yeah.
It can build you up or it can completely destroy your life. And so you need to be careful about the marriage partner. But once you've made that decision, you've made it, it's how do you then make it work? So that then it's working for you and you find a way of working that enables you to work together towards something. In a partnership, even in business, 1 + 1 is not 1. There's just, a squared factor
It's
there
never
that comes
black and white.
Yeah, so by leveraging one another, you're able to go further.
True.
So how can you then do that? And in the seasons you're not able to work, then how can you support each other or how can you get support in that season? And then another thing is delegate. You can't do everything. Right? I can't go to the market to buy fruits and vegetables from the market because that's the best place to get them. I can't be the one driving my kids everywhere to school and back and everything, plus make sure the house is okay, plus have a food. It's just not possible.
It's not possible.
I have 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And so what can I delegate and what can I choose not to delegate so that I don't go crazy? I also have my mental wellness to think about, right? I also need to exercise. I need to do all these different things. So what can I delegate and what can I leave for someone else to do? So in that sort of a scenario, it's to just recognize, first of all, you are a woman and accept, okay? That is your role.
Yeah.
You are a nurturer, all right? But at the same time, you also need to think about money, imagine.
Yeah.
And so
it can't always take the back.
It can't always take the back seat. Yes, this season is difficult. You can't, it's okay. But when the season is over, pick up that ball and try and figure out, how can I make my baby steps? What do I need to do? Okay, it's an emergency fund for now. Okay. And then I need to save towards a down payment to whatever it is that I want. Where do I do that? What does a money market fund do? How can I do that? What is a treasury bill? And it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, when you have many things that you need to do, sometimes you feel overwhelmed. But when you sit down and put down that list of things that you need to do, you realize, oh, there are only 7. Okay, which one can I prioritize? Which one is the most critical one that I need to do, and where do I start with this thing? So that doesn't feel overwhelming. And then get support. Get support so that you're not doing this journey alone. Imagine we were not created to do life alone. And that's why we're here, to help people, to think through. I've met people who are much older than me saying, I can't figure this thing out on my own. Come, let's sit and have a conversation.
Sure.
And sometimes it's just a space to think, the space to just reflect. There's the space to have a sounding board with somebody.
True.
That gives you that impetus to move forward, or even idea to then be able to execute on what you need to do. I think the key thing is we can't do life alone, so don't even try and do it alone.
It's not
and accept
possible
the season that you're in.
Yeah. You've mentioned working with professionals quite a number of times today, and one of the things I am a believer in is that an investment in education or in literacy truly pays the best return.
Absolutely.
I've seen it in myself. I've seen it with people because, again, as you said, it really does shorten the process for you. I've talked to a lot of investment advisors, and they hate this question. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you ever just get people who come to you and they're like, Rina, I have X amount of money, 50,000.
Oh my gosh.
Where would you recommend for me to, put this money? One of the reasons that I don't like that question is because I'm a big fan of goal-based investing. And until I understand or know what your goals are, your timelines are, where do you want to get to, all of these things, I might be biased to equities and tell you, oh, just buy shares with this money. And maybe that's not what you needed, right? So I'd like to paint a scenario for you.
Sure.
Let's assume Wanjiko here has a good salary, right? They have the basics. They do budget. They have a retirement plan with their employer. They also have an emergency fund that's not fully funded, but they're working on it. And maybe they also have like sinking funds to help with projects throughout the year, like the kids' birthdays, school fees, etc.
Okay.
But Wanjiko has 30,000 left every month that can't truly be accounted for. If she really did have something that she could start with in terms of like investing beyond money market funds, because I feel like we've done well as women in money market funds, but again, we must do more than just money market funds. So if Wanjiko came to you with her 30,000, maybe 30 to 50,000 that she thinks with proper money management, just reorganizing her finances, that's money she can spare every month.
Yeah.
And she wants to start her investment journey, and her goal is wealth creation. She's literally just starting. What would that conversation with her look like? Or what would you advise her to start from? Where would you advise her to start from in terms of looking at her investment readiness, risk analysis, etc.?
Yeah. So you've kind of already preempted that in terms of just where would we start is just looking to understand this 30,000. What is her goal with it? Is she looking to save towards retirement? And so she has 10, 15, 20, 30 years ahead of her. Or is this something that she needs to put aside for her children's education, which is maybe in 5 years' time? So that will be necessary for us to understand. Because for you to get to the place where you have professionals managing your money, you need to at least have between 1 to 5 million shillings. So I would encourage her, especially being a woman, to get her money put aside. Money market fund is not a bad idea, specifically for that.
So start accumulating
to accumulate.
fast.
Once you have 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, you actually start getting a lot more interesting options to be able to invest your money.
Right.
But when you try and manage 30,000 here, 30,000 there, 30,000 there, it gets very overwhelming to be able to know, okay, what did I put that 30,000 in? So if you're able to then have a strategy that is easily manageable, I'd say build up that money.
Fast.
And you can build it up even using treasury bills.
Yeah.
You can decide, I've gotten 30,000, let me build to maybe 300,000
and buy a
buy a
bill.
treasury bill, it will
Yeah.
keep coming back and build up. And before you know it, you have $1 million.
Yeah.
Now with $1 million, it's like, okay, can I give you guys this money to manage for me? And I get statements every 6 months or something like that. I'm a big believer in also allowing professional managers to manage. However, you need to keep track of what your money is doing. And so you decide, okay, let me put this 1 million with this professional manager, their wealth management account, as I also start building again. Then I can put this in a safe vehicle, okay? So this vehicle, then I can decide is going to be a treasury bond.
So diversifying is also
as well.
key.
Yes, diversifying as well. You can't put your money in one thing.
That's true.
You can't put your money in one thing.
Yeah.
If you want to do well, you want to be able to do different things. So for example, you can decide, I'm going to do 3 different things. I'll do real estate, I'll do fixed income, and maybe I'll do a wealth management product by somebody. Or I'll do real estate, I'll do fixed income, and then I'll trade, or I'll get into a business that I already know, whether that's selling clothes or whatever it is. But you can't have one investment option that you do only, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
It could be inflation, it could be currency, it could be all kinds of things that go wrong, as we've seen. And so you want to be able to diversify. So the conversation would also, for me to understand, how willing is she to take risk?
Are you a low risk, medium risk,
exactly, or high risk
risk
person? Both in her ability, but also her willingness. Maybe she's 23, but very afraid, and I'll be like,
very
okay,
conservative.
very conservative.
Yeah.
And so even in the investment options we choose, it will be based on that. And there are people who are just like, yeah, I like government bonds, but I'm very fearful of them. Can we do something else other than that? Or I am a Muslim, I can't do
interest.
That's haram.
Yeah.
So give me another option other than an interest earning instrument. And we have all kinds. We have different products from different clients based on what it is that the client is trying to do. So for example, right now we have something called a sale and leaseback opportunity.
Okay.
And investors can put in their money, but again, the minimum is $1 million. So if you have $1 million, let me just be honest, then it gives you options. Not to say that with 1,000 you cannot start, because even with 1,000, even with 100,
you can start.
You can start.
Yeah.
So don't feel, oh, I don't have $1 million right now. It's where am I at right now? Where do I want to go? And how can I consistently put money aside? And so you put money aside in the small places, whether that's a SACCO or a money market fund, to build your money as you earn reasonable interest rate, with a view to then get into investing.
You know what I love about what you've said? It's the honesty for me that, you've said if you have $1 million, the options are a bit more interesting. Because one of the other things I've also observed, even with myself and some of my clients, is the disappointment that comes with unmanaged expectations, which really affects our momentum in investing. Because I remember the first treasury bill I did, which was 50,000. I don't know what I had in mind for
treasury bill or bond?
A bill, the 1 year, the 364 bill, right? 100,000, sorry. And the way it's like you think you're gonna make 30,000 out of 100,000, and then you get and then you get the payment from CBK, and they're like,
what have I earned?
What have I earned? Yeah. But then I also observed that the more money I do, realistically speaking, if someone who has 100,000 in a bond and someone who has 1.2 million in a bond have two very different testimonials. One may feel, it's not even worth it, right? And the other person would be, yo, this is really good passive income. I could do this, right? So I love that you've also kind of like brought out the aspect of accumulating first, and getting a substantial, like it's not like don't start investing. I totally hear you with 100,000, because my journey, I started with like 3,500 of savings every month after I lost my job. Because for me, it wasn't more of like how much money am I putting aside. It was more of building the discipline of even starting to put money aside. Because I've also learned that how I behaved with little money is how I will behave with a lot of money, right? And you just realize that the moment you get into the momentum of just learning to, for me, wealth creation, I like to break it down into making money, keeping money, then multiplying money, right? So how much money am I making? Let me not spend all of it. I need to keep some of it. That's saving, right? And then whatever I'm keeping, I can't just save all of it if I want to be wealthy. I must multiply,
100.
right? So I have to actually start investing. But I feel like a lot of us get into it with unmanaged expectations. So we want, let's say, like a 17% bond return expectation in like a money market fund. So when you do the MMF just for 3 months, you're like, these investments are scams. They're not even, they're not making me that much. So I feel like also us understanding that different assets and how they work in terms of low risk, low return, obviously. And so if you want a slightly higher return, you also have to be willing to kind of like let go of a bit of safety and explore into, say, equities, foreign market investing, commodities, whatnot. Yeah. So as we wrap up, how does someone know how much risk? Let's assume, because risk is important in investing, right? How do you know your risk profile? Like whether you're a low risk person, medium risk person, high risk person, and how much of that is informed by, okay, trauma? And how do you, because like for me, I have gradually graduated from a low risk person to what I would now call like a medium to high risk person. Okay. And the only thing that changed for me was literacy. I realized that we are afraid of things that we don't understand.
Absolutely.
So when I invested in understanding, I started realizing, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad. So how do you actually correctly analyze where you lie and now use that as your guiding light for, I can take this much, but this I can't take at this moment. Yeah.
So you're right. And there's two different aspects there. There's the person analyzing themselves and a person analyzing themselves on how risky how risk averse they are. It's not a good assessment because somebody can be like, yeah, I want to take all the risks. Yeah, I'm a risk taker. In fact, I jump off planes and I can go
and you
do all
can't
kinds of
afford to
things.
do that.
But you can't afford to do it.
Yeah.
So I think risk assessment is not so much about how you feel. But rather, what are your personal circumstances?
True.
So if I'm a single mother, I have 3 kids, right? And I'm their single caregiver and income earner. I can't afford to take a lot of risk.
True.
If I'm 25 years old, first job, I earn 250,000. I can afford to take a lot of risk.
You have recovery time even.
Because I have recovery time. So risk is a function of time. How old are you? Dependence. Right? Personal circumstance and dependency, I mean, not just your children, but also you might be the firstborn in your family. You have other siblings that you have to pay for because your parents are not able or not there. And so the personal circumstances have a huge impact on that. And then how soon do you need the money? What's the money for? Is it for education, for paying school fees for next term?
Or is it for like high school or
high
uni?
school 15 years from now because your baby is not yet even at the place where we can talk about them? You know what I mean? So depending on what is the purpose for the money.
Yeah.
So risk is a huge thing. But of course, there's the asset itself. So the asset itself, not just me and my ability to take risk, but also these opportunities that are before me, they also have the inherent risk.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at 2 stocks, for instance, there's one that is higher risk than another because this one is in a growth business, maybe it's in tech, but it might be disrupted very easily. Even within money markets, there's some that are really tiny and giving very high rates, and there's the others that are very big and giving low rates. And so even within money markets, there's risk.
True.
So how do you then assess? I think take the time to talk to people. People who are in the industry, people who understand, have many conversations, because that's when you'll understand, oh, so-and-so company only got their license
just the other day.
Okay, but they got their license the other day. However, who is behind them and how long have they been in the market? They might have gotten the license the other day, but as individuals, they've been in the market for the last 20 years, 30 years. So I can trust these guys. Or they have been in the market for 5 years or for 20 years, but their fees are too high or they don't, they're too conservative. And so therefore they're not giving very good returns or, whatever it is. So those conversations would help with people who've been in the market. I think people should not fear picking up the call and saying, I'd like to speak to somebody at Fide Investment Bank that I'd like to have just a conversation with.
Yeah.
And we usually organize 30-minute calls with our clients for free.
What?
I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's
Because
not
we want
public information.
It's not, but when we send out our mailing list, when we
Yeah.
send out our weekly reports, there's usually a link there. Click this to book an appointment with one of our wealth managers.
Wow.
Take advantage of that and just have a conversation. You're not it's not an obligation for you to invest, but you learn. And then
You
call
will
somebody
learn.
else.
Right.
Right? Speak to them, understand. Look in the
That's
newspaper.
part
What's
of due
happening?
diligence
You have to do
now.
due diligence.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, Susan said I need to put my money in.
And you take that as the gospel
And you take that as
truth
gospel
and you
truth.
just run with it. Yeah.
There's a gentleman I met in a set some years back, and this gentleman had saved 2.4 million shillings. I kid you not, this guy, I looked at him, I thought, I'm sorry to say this, but I thought he was a matatu driver.
Oh my.
Just the way he
looked.
spoke, how he presented himself. I'm just telling you, I didn't expect that he would have saved that kind of money.
Yeah.
But he had.
Wow.
And he shared how he took all that money because his friend told him he can put his money in this amazing circle that's giving I don't know what percentage return. And he took all his money that he had saved in the whole world and put it in this circle. Without doing due diligence to find out this circle, when was it begun?
Right.
How long? Who's behind this circle? And what's the integrity behind the people behind this circle?
Yeah.
Do you know the circle closed? 8 months later, there was a queue from the DCI all the way on Kiambu Road. People going to claim their money. All his 2.4 million, as he spoke on that day, he was in tears.
Yeah. Sharing
how they have had to sleep, I don't know where, because they have no money even for rent.
Right.
So what am I saying? Risk is critical. A lot of times people just think, oh, what is the return I'm going to get?
Yeah.
But don't just, because you can't read about this circle. There's no one who has written about it.
Exactly.
Just pick up the call, find out, are you a member of this circle? How is it going? Talk to others who have invested or others who have heard about it. And do your due diligence like that. Talk to professionals, people you were in school with who did accounts or who did finance.
Like ask, don't be like, I always say, if you're out here trying to, some of us don't say where we are investing money because we want to surprise people. And most times you end up surprising yourself, like in that case, because I keep saying time and time again that honestly, if I had $1 for every person I have met that invested because their mom, their aunt, their sister, their friend, someone works there, it's too many. So we don't have knowledge, but because I trust Rina and she's my sister and her husband and her have money there, I ignore due diligence, right? I just jump right in, right? So it's very important to do due diligence. Very lightly speaking, what investment opportunities do you feel in Kenya today are very underrated that you think would be something that women should kind of like research about, expose themselves? Because we know circles, we know money market funds. What else do you feel we are ignoring or underestimating that you think is worth our attention?
Yeah. So I think the world now has become accessible in so many ways. So I think people generally fear stock markets. They hear the stock exchange and
like,
they have PTSD
Yeah.
from their grandparents,
You'll
not
just
even
hear
themselves.
uchumi. Unajua nini ndo uchumi walifanya? No, you're done.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think there's generally the stock market generally gets a bad rap, but I think it's people not understanding how to invest in the stock market, not taking the time to understand the companies that exist, both here locally, but also across even the oceans. We have stock markets even in the US, even in the UK. India, by the way, has done amazing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, it was, I think, if I'm not wrong, the best performing market in the world in 2023.
That's
but you can check that to confirm. But it's one of the best performing stock markets. And so it's to look at how can I take advantage of opportunities that go beyond my neighborhood. My neighborhood is so tiny.
It's so tiny.
Right? So and we have people in this market, such as ourselves, that are offering opportunities that are not just your typical stock exchange,
right? Not just the NSE.
Not just the NSE. Of course, NSE has its opportunities, but what I'm saying is that how can you cast your net a bit wider to understand how can I invest in ETFs?
The S&P 500.
The S&P 500, even just to buy, hold, how can you do that? So I think maybe helping people, women should get to the place where they're understanding a little more than what is beyond the comfortable. But then also just to appreciate that you don't have to invest in everything. I think something else that people have not invested in out of fear is treasury bills and treasury bonds.
Treasury bills and bonds. Yeah.
So people are stuck on money markets, but what's the rate you're getting? You're probably getting about 15 at the highest.
If you're lucky.
If you're
it's
lucky, most of
9,
them are between
9, 10.
all the way to about 14. 15 are the outliers. But today, if I put my money in
bond,
even in a T-bill, to get my money in a year, I'll get 16.9%.
Very good return.
Fantastic return. I could decide instead of putting it in a 1-year T-bill, I'll put it in a 3-month T-bill so that then I can also roll over my money and compound it. And I'll earn 16.5 per annum by putting it there, and I can roll it again, and I roll it again, and I roll it again.
Smart.
Do you know in 2017, there was only 10,000 retail investors in the Central Bank of Kenya? I was so shocked to get those statistics.
Yeah.
The rest were institutions.
We are not investing.
We're not. Retailers are not. So we need more people taking advantage of the opportunities that are there. They normally say, oh, the government pay. Do you know if the government defaults, even your bank will struggle to pay you back your money?
Our entire financial system is reliant on treasury. That's and I feel, I thank you for providing that clarity. I'm pretty sure you've probably gotten the questions and whatnot every day. Like, guys are so afraid. And it's almost becoming so difficult to convince people to invest. But we are so sure that money is safe in our bank accounts. But like, those bank accounts are highly dependent on treasury. Absolutely. So if at all a default was to happen, we are all in trouble, investor or not. Right? Thank you so much, Rina. I have one last question for you.
Sure.
You seem to me like a very fearless, bold, and confident woman when it comes to money, which is very inspiring, right?
Okay, thank you.
How did you get there? And maybe as a parting shot, if you were to tell any woman who's watching or listening to us today, who would like to become bold and fearless and very confident in matters investing and money, what would you tell them? So I'd like to hear how you got here, because I know there's a story, maybe, I don't know. And what would you say to someone who's they want to, but it's still a very difficult thing for them?
Yeah. How did I get here? I think I have made mistakes, so many. I have lent my money to people I shouldn't have. I've gotten into investments I didn't understand. I have done all kind of manner of nonsense when it comes to managing money. I have eaten everything and not... I wasn't as... You started today by sharing how you were so good with managing money. I ate and had nothing left and ate from a bin. Like, it's been so bad.
Oh, wait, are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, my.
So I have done all the mistakes when money is concerned. And so I think for me, it's beyond a confidence. I think it's not so much the confidence about investing in money. It's about understanding where I've come from, the mistakes I have made. And I just want everybody to know and understand it is possible for you.
For anyone.
To recover from where you are. It doesn't matter where you are, how much you earn, what kind of mistakes you've made. As long as you decide today that you're going to begin to take the right steps to understand how to manage your money and to grow it, you will make it. So that's, my story is very long, but generally, I can be a case study for the worst manager of money. But that propelled me to a place of wanting to understand how it works. And so I ask questions, even the dumbest ones, even when I sit with anybody and everyone. SBM, for example, I'm a client of SBM. And 2 weeks ago, actually, I called one of my RM and I said, sit down. I have thought of something in my mind. I want you to help me check whether it is making sense and whether SBM can help me on this journey. And she was patient. She's come to my office twice to just sit and answer my many questions, some dumb, some smart. But I'm not afraid to ask questions. And it's through asking the questions that I've gotten to know and to understand. But it's beyond asking questions. It's also trying. Investing in this, investing the other, with a little money. I have invested in Bitcoin, Ripple, Ethereum, all those different things that you cannot even imagine. Lost some, made some. But in the process,
you've learned.
Understood what blockchain is, what is it going to do, and why do I need to care about it? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's not just saying no because I don't know. It's saying no from a place of understanding.
I love that.
And I think that's what people need to do, is get to a place of, before I say no or yes,
just take some time to understand.
Talk to people about it. But even after you're done talking, try. Take a little money and try. And then you'll see, this thing actually works. This thing about treasury bills, minimum is 100,000. How can I try and see whether it's going to work?
Exactly.
Before I put my 10 million in there.
Right. Yeah, I love it. So for people who are watching you, what I'm getting is try. be open-minded,
Yeah.
ask questions.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been so good, but we have to bring it to an end. I'm so happy to have had this chat with you.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot.
Me too.
And how can people get you? You mentioned you're a certified coach and
Yeah.
you work with people. What kind of services do you provide in that regard?
Yeah.
If I'm one of those women who's just like, I want to be like you when I grow up, what kind of services do you provide in that regard?
Okay.
Yeah.
So with FIDA Investment Bank, we provide the investment opportunities. Yeah, and there's a whole array of them.
Yeah.
And so those ones, you can get in touch with us. Our email is info@fib.co.ke. That one is manned by many people, so we'll be able to get in touch with you. With regard to this other side of financial literacy, we have a program called Investable, where we teach people how to think through investment opportunities from basics. We already have alumni of over 350 people who've gone through the program and are in a community. Some of them are in a community and are continuing to help one another. And that's a great one that I would recommend for anything around investing knowledge and literacy. And also to get a copy of the book, I'd advise people to email us at SEMA, SEMA, at moneywise.co.ke.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Guys, as you have heard, all these details that Rina has provided are going to actually be left in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that as a woman who was watching this a podcast episode today, you've learned, you have gotten at least a rough idea of where to start. And if you're not a woman, I know you have women in your life. So please make sure that you share this episode with them, because when we have an empowered woman, we definitely have an empowered society. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of the Smarter Tomorrow podcast.